The following video is from an article by Screen Rant. You'll be able to tell because they don't even mention Alcide, who I argue would have been a great choice for Sookie, but fuck him, am I right? If you were obsessed with the True Blood series like I was, then you too would have had a clear insight into who was better for the beloved Sookie Stackhouse. All True Blood fans were either Team Eric or Team Bill. I blame Twilight, but I digress. The truth of the matter is, they both played some pretty convenient roles for Sookie. Is there a clear choice as to who was better in the role? Probably not, but we can be selfish and say we had our favorite? Of course we can. Both the books and the TV show drew a diverse fan base. A fan base that all thought they knew who could tame the wild fairy Sookie. Here is who the better love interest is for, Sookie. Is it Eric or is it Bill? Let's find out, and we'll start off with Eric. Eric is, like, way older than Bill, like, way older, like, Viking time older, which I only feel they did that because Alexander Skarsgård is Swedish. Anyways, as the vampire sheriff of, this specific place where, Chuba takes place in, Eric has several people in his call. Not only his side baby Vamps and right-hand Lady Pam, who I love her icon, he had the opportunity to call in favors and meet with some pretty important people. If Sookie had stayed with him, she most likely would have ended up like all the other women he messes around with. Sookie isn't one to lust after a man, so we can totally see why Charlene Harris chose the end that she did. However, if Sookie ended up with Eric, she would have had a different kind of life. Now let's go to Bill. Bill was the type of man who preferred to keep to himself. Sookie was drawn to his quiet demeanor. I remember the first episode so vividly. I was like, damn, she just can't stop staring at this bitch. More so, she liked the idea of the quiet life he led. Bill was a man who was happy with living off True Blood. If he never picked another human being with his fangs, he would be fine. Oh my god. The next seasons just go crazy, huh? They go, whoo! The stability was what was exciting to Sookie and why he may have been the better option. He was willing to be the man that gave up basically living as a vampire for true love. And while I do think that's sweet, we have to remember one thing. Bill is not as strong as Eric. Eric is very strong and he could protect Sookie. Not to say that Bill couldn't protect Sookie, Eric just had the power behind him to truly protect her. In the first season, when Sookie goes to Bill's house for the first time, he had a few uninvited guests over who wanted to just eat Sookie. Bill looked just as terrified as Sookie because did he know he didn't have the power to tell those vampires to fuck off. But Eric could have, because it's Eric, so yeah. And that just leads me to my next point. Bill was always a Southern gentleman. Being from the South, Sookie appreciated a good Southern gentleman. Unfortunately for her, that was hard to come by because she could read the thoughts of all the imposter gentlemen and knew how filthy they actually were. But since she couldn't read Bill's thoughts, and he treated her like a Southern man should, it was almost as if she found her Mr. Right. Bill offered her comfort that she longed for, but still, this wasn't good enough for Sookie. She wanted the real life, with babies and sunlight and food. And well, Bill couldn't give it to her, but I would argue that Eric isn't really... Well, Eric's a bad boy. Like, he's pretty fucking scary compared to Bill. And no one marries the bad boy. Well, they shouldn't. Most girls ended up with having some kind of experience with a bad boy. This was Sookie's experience. She learned early on that Eric was just way too erratic, too uncontrollable, and selfish to ever make a life with. Was he good for that moment in her life? Yeah, of course he was. Look at how many times he used his influence to save her. But when you think about it, did he ever have good intentions when it came to Sookie? All he ever wanted was her blood, bow chicka wow wow, and to ask her to risk her life for one of his many plans. That's way different from Bill because Bill always professed his love to Sookie. No matter what he did to Sookie, her friends, or her family, he always ended up professing his love for her. Every time he did something that he didn't have the best outlook, he always had a greater reason. He just always wanted to protect her at any cost, even if this meant going off the deep end, which he did a lot. then so be it, you know? Even in the books, when Bill seemed to be in an act of betrayal or making selfish decisions, it would be later revealed that this was also that he could keep Sookie safe. If your man doesn't go as hard for you as Bill does the relationship even count? But going back to Eric and Sookie could have truly been a power couple. She was a fairy with her own powers that she didn't begin to tap the surface on. And he was a freaking Viking before he was turned. It's almost like a match made in heaven. They had their own strength, and Eric knew her value in a battle. He always gave her room to make her own decisions. If she needed his help, he would show up. Bill, on the other hand, would watch her like a hawk. Since he was attached to her by all of her blood he has ingested, he wouldn't even give her time to figure out if she was actually scared or just had a bad dream before floating uninvited into her home. But besides that, he was very dedicated to her. He was so dedicated to showing her that he was willing to do anything in exchange for her life. One of those things was when he was exposed to the deadly Hep V virus. This was the virus on the TV, but not in the books, and it was basically invented to kill all vampires because of the hold they had over the world. If I remember correctly, because I have skimmed ahead, I'm pretty sure they put that in the True Blood. I don't remember though. But anyways, Bill gets injected with the Hep V, but is eventually offered a cure. However, he wants to keep Sookie safe, and her involvement with vampires is what's keeping her in danger. When Bill is offered the Hep V cure, he vehemently denies it. He tells Eric about a dream he has of Sookie giving birth to death, and that he must save her from that. But here's the thing. Bill treats her like a delicate flower. Eric does not. Eric realized early on that Sookie could take care of herself. He always knew there was something special about her. Also, she never seemed helpless. She took on the seedy rat race even after they beat her and left her for dead. Eric watched Sookie handle her own in a bad battle and even let her take a few hits. Sometimes a girl just wants to fight without having to worry if someone's going to fly down or remove her from the situation she already had a handle on, you know? Besides, if he was that worried, he would send protection in the form of Pam or one of her minions. To end this list off, there is one thing that you could argue Bill is better at than Eric, to an extent. It's in season 4 or 5. It's the fact that Bill truly tried to help vampires and humans coexist. One thing that Bill truly had over Eric was that he just genuinely wanted to help them coexist. Even as he rose the ranks of vampire politics and even at one point became the king of Louisiana, one of his main talking points was how they could gain the trust of humans. His natural kindness was a great compliment to Sookie's kindness, especially seeing as she truly knew how people were because she could hear their thoughts. That's the one thing that Eric couldn't fully understand. Kindness. Bill's past led him to learn how important kindness is, whereas Eric still had a lot to learn. Even when, at some point he gets his memory wiped, but like, that's neither here nor there. So after going over this list, who do you think was better for Sookie? Was it Bill? Was it Eric? Hell, was it even Alcide, even though he wasn't even mentioned on this list? I want to know in the comments down below what you guys think of who was better for Sookie. In my opinion, I would have to say, after going over that list, that, yeah, Bill was better for Sookie. I always rooted for Bill and Sookie, but I just thought Eric was super hot. It's those Skarsgårds, man. They get to you one way or another. Anyways, thanks for watching the video. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn on the bell for post notifications. I Dream a Genie video is still being worked on, and the next video will be about the Mickey Mouse Club. And I'm not referring to Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, I'm referring to the Mickey Mouse Club. You know, the one where you see clips of like Justin Timberlake and freaking Britney Spears before they became popular. Yeah, we're talking about that.